Another lady said, well, I taught my children to follow traffic laws, and, you know, my kids, I know my kids, you know, they're going to go the extra long block down to the crosswalk across the busy street. And it's not that busy of a street. And, I'm a good parent and I teach them well. Everyone should do that. And oh, by the way, you, pointing at me, you should attract those two kids down that ran in front of the cars to get across the street to the bus stop. You, me, that's what I should have done. I wasn't really focused on changing their behavior because the city had put out a call for people to comment on their proposal to remove these traffic lights and to put in this new crosswalk, a long block away. And I did. I told them about this new Aboriginal school, and I told them about, there's a huge old folks' home that's just down the street, and the people that come in to visit their family and all the staff, a lot of them really use this intersection with the lights. So when the kids got across, okay, and no, it didn't come to my mind to go and run across the street and go, you're 15 years old, you should know better than to run in front of cars. No, all I could think about was I could see this coming. I could see that this was going to happen. That 15-year-old kids from their Aboriginal school were going to run across in front of cars because there was no traffic light anymore. I remember when I was 15, would I walk a long block to cross a busy street? No. No. Unless it was like a divided highway or something where, it was like absolutely crazy. But for a city street that was, a pretty busy city street, we'd wait for a break in the traffic and we'd cross. A lot of times we didn't even cross at, intersections. It would be in the middle of the block, a long block. And sometimes, in the spring, the sidewalk becomes a huge puddle, and you've got running shoes, and you can't get by without getting up to your ankles in cold water. So what do? Well, I got to go across the street because the sidewalk's available over there. That's just what humans do. Was it really a racial issue? Somebody said it's not a racial issue. And then the other point that I was making was, I had so many points about this, but it's design. We have a city engineering department where, if you go to university to become an engineer, it's all about designing and making things smart. Engineers aren't the highest paid profession, but, they're paid pretty well. And they're paid for their smarts. You had a decently designed intersection by a school. You took it away. The school remained. It's poor design. You put up a stop sign. I know it's poor because I could see the kids were I'm going over and over this. I can see this coming. Somebody else said, yeah, it was not going to go back the way it was until one or two kids get run over. This person could see this was, a very small person, in numbers on this giant post. This person could see the same way I could see. It's like, were you feeling sick? I'm feeling sick in my stomach. I'm feeling so sick. And then, the Aboriginal guy who says, you're playing the race card. You don't feel it, but I feel it. When I was in grade 7, one of the young people in my school, got run over by a police cruiser who was going on a high-speed police chase close to this school without a siren and without cherries, without the flashing lights. Another one, right, out of my grade 7 class, dead. It's a long time ago. When you're 12 years old, you don't understand. You're very fragile. Police cruiser doing, I don't know, 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour, hits a little kid. Can you imagine how far the kid flew before they crashed into a million pieces? I don't like to show emotion. I told somebody else who was being kind of very flippant, and I see this person always posting the same flippant comments, flippant. And what I got from my intuition was, this person is like me, suppressed a lot of pain. This doesn't come out every day. This is, and it'll be gone soon. It's like, it's unprocessed pain. When you're a little kid, look both ways for cars. You're well trained. Why? There's when I was really little, there were railway tracks not that far from where I lived. My parents said, never go down that way. Never go that way. I was about 4 years old. Am I flippant? Because I've got unprocessed pain. My ghost is saying, talking about me to the other ghosts, saying, he can't go yet. He's got too much in his throat. Can't go. What is this pain? What's this related to? The stories I told you? With the kids being hit by cars? Sure it is. I think when I was 12 years old and I heard about these deaths, it was like, really? But I didn't have tears. It's just another news item. In those days, it was every time you turned on the news, it was about wars, wars, nuclear war, and a blow the city will be gone, the countryside will be gone, everything was going to be nuclear winter. That's what we grew up with. And, someone got murdered in the big city. So, you kind of get used to hearing horrible, horrible on the news. And somebody said, yeah, that kid that you knew from that school was, they got hit by a car. They're dead. It's more bad news. It's like, all right, we're going to go and play football. It's forgotten about. And then, when I was young, we got the yearbook. The picture of the dead kid was on the front page. Years later, you go back and you find your old yearbook from grade 7, and there's the kid. It's just a traffic light. They can go down to a new crosswalk that no one uses. Just a traffic light. It's an Aboriginal school, but it's not a racial issue. The white school is long since closed down. Somebody else said, because the Aboriginal school, the First Nation school, it's not a school. It's the old folks' home. It's really old. They built a brand new one just a little bit further down the street. But this is the old one. It was so old, it was not good enough for the old folks anymore. It wasn't up to codes or something. So they built the new one and they closed this and, they gave it to a realtor. Sell it. Wouldn't sell. I mean, who's going to buy an old folks home? It didn't sell. So the city owned the land. And so someone on this post brought that up and said, this Aboriginal school, the city gave them that building. How can it be racist? The city gave them this building for the Aboriginal kids, and they're from, out of town, reserves that are far away. The city gave it to them. It's not racism. How could it be racism? I guess the city felt really good, donating this one to the Aboriginal people. It's a really old building. It can be repurposed, I guess. That's what they did. But somehow, my comment that, the white school, Got the traffic light all those years ago, and you took it down when the Aboriginals moved into the old folks' home that they got for free from the city. The city, well, it's a different division, the Board of Education that I told you, they built themselves a new elementary school on the taxpayers' dime when they had more existing elementary schools than they needed. They just didn't move the kids into, two of them and close one of them. No, they closed all of the older schools. They weren't old. I mean, I've been to the big city where there's really old buildings that are being used for schools. They still use them. Well, they built a brand new elementary school for the city kids. But the Aboriginal kids, they're going to have to make do with this hand-me-down old building. It used to be an old folks' home. That's going to be their school. The Aboriginals on the reserve are still complaining. They say, the national government donates so much money to foreign nations and foreign aid, and yet on so many of the Aboriginal places, they have to boil water because there's no fresh water still. 2020. They got a bone to pick. It's like, charity begins at home. And, we don't have clean water still. Still, years and years and decades and decades and decades. Why not? But you can cut a check for some foreign nation to do whatever they're going to do. I see it as racism. Dumping this old building that no one wanted to buy. We got it off our hands, and, we're seen as good people, helping out this Aboriginal school. We couldn't unload on anybody else. Everybody wins or something. I went to the doctor today. I got kind of sniffles and coughing up green phlegm. Whenever I get this green phlegm, I know this is something bacterial. I've had it before. I just go to the doctor and I get my antibiotics, and it clears up within a couple of days. I saw the first person in my town that I've seen with my eyes wearing one of these face masks. A young person, about 17, wearing one of those face masks, worried about the coronavirus. I said, I'm going to make a note of that, and then come a note. I saw that today. I don't think I have the coronavirus, but when I got to the doctor's office, they had kind of a checklist there. Do you have a new cough? Are you, got a sore throat? And have you been to an airport in the past 2 weeks? No, I haven't been to an airport, but I've got, I cough about 5 times total in a day with this cold. And I do have this sniffle. Sometimes, I don't know, 4 times today total. I coughed up some phlegm 4 times total. It's not a bad cold, but, anyways, I saw the sign because they're trying to get, and they said, well, if you got this, you got to go to the emergency for screening. That's about all I got for you. It's not coronavirus that I got, it's just a very simple cold. Something. I usually say if the antibiotics make it go away in a day or two, that, it is bacterial. But I'm there, and I had to wait for an hour and a half in the walk in clinic because I don't have a family doctor. I haven't had a family doctor since the last one retired about 5 years ago. I'm on the list. We have government pay doctors. It doesn't cost me to go see the doctor, but I gotta wait. And, I've thought about this before. This is a repeat thing. I know that if I just got a refill on my past use of antibiotic that cleared the same thing up before, exact same symptoms, then I could just walk in to the drugstore and order, just give me the same thing that, I ordered last year. But no, I sat for an hour and a half in the doctor's office to get the prescription. But I know that if I went to Mexico, if I wanted the antibiotic, I could just go into a Mexican pharmacy and say, I want the antibiotic, and get it in and out in 5 minutes. But that's not allowed in our country. We pay for the doctors through our taxes, government debt. We have to wait in line, and I don't have a family doctor, but there's no competing private system, and we really don't want it because we see in the United States how expensive it is, and we're already stretched. We don't want that. So I went in, and it was a new doctor I'd never seen before, and I told the doctor about my cough, and then I talked to my doctor about how I've been off for a long time because I have what I diagnosed for myself as fibromyalgia, which is achy muscles and achy bones. And I explained that, I don't have the family doctor, but I go to this walk-in clinic on the other side of town that was closed when I wanted to go see the doctor. So I went to the other side of town to see this one. And I said, well, I think it's fibromyalgia because I've looked up on the internet all about it, and it's, what they say it is. But I saw the last doctor, and I told him about it, and he said, I won't diagnose that. That doesn't really explain it, just I won't diagnose that. But if you want to be diagnosed, you can go to the next major city, one of which is 500 miles away, and the other one is 1,000 miles away. And the doctor there will, so I didn't go. Theoretically, I could have applied to government for some kind of a grant to travel to one of these other cities. I really had no desire to go to another city to get this diagnosed because I looked it up and there's really no treatment for fibromyalgia. Marijuana helps a lot, and massage helps. I'll do the massage myself. But this new doctor said, oh, well, we've actually got 2 doctors in our city that can diagnose fibromyalgia. What? How come the other walk-in clinic doctor that I saw about this issue didn't know about this? I don't know, but there's 2 of them, and all you need to do is have some blood work done. I'll set that up for you, and then you might have to wait 6 months to see the specialist. But I've been waiting for 2 fucking years for my fibromyalgia to go away. Maybe you think I should have gone to the big city, but like I said, there's really nothing that they can do for it. And, marijuana is legal in my country. Oh, that was the other thing that happened today. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, got elected the first time because he said he was going to legalize weed. Well, it took him a good long time, but he did finally pass legislation to make it legal, but he made all the other governments have to sign off on it. And I live in Ontario province, where Toronto is, but I'm not in Toronto. And the leader of the province of Ontario really dragged his feet on all the rules and regulations about opening a cannabis dispensary. So it's been a very long time. But finally today we got our first cannabis dispensary, a little tiny private store, like a corner store, like a 7-Eleven or a Circle K. It took an awful long time, from the time when Justin Trudeau was elected to legalize the herb in our first legal store in our town. Well, he went for first 4-year term. Coffee boy out. But he was in for 4 years, and we were still waiting for our cannabis dispensary in our city. And then he got reelected. And in the meantime, our provincial guy, so it's been about, 5 long years since Justin Trudeau was elected to legalize the herb before we got our first weed store open today. Only 5 years. I mean, it's not that bad. It's just another example of an unbelievably shitty democracy Canada is. Shitty, shitty, shitty. Shouldn't you? Well, some people are going to go and say, oh, it's the best country in the world or something. They copy the Americans because Americans always do that. You don't like it. This is the other one. I don't like it. Leave. Go to Venezuela. I always hear that one. No, it's shitty. It's shitty because everyone voted for legalized weed, and it took 5 frickin' years to get our first legal weed store after we voted for it. 5 fucking years. We voted for it, the Canadian people. If we vote for something, I want the fucking thing tomorrow. We voted for it en masse. We elected that jackass and the other jackass in Ontario province. We elected these two. It was our choice, but we wanted the free, not free, but we wanted the legal weed. 5 fucking years. That is not democracy. That is foot dragging. That is bureaucracy. That is bullshit. What are you going to do about it? Move to Venezuela? Cuba? North Korea? I don't know. I mean, this is what people say. I think people are really not educated. Well, I know that's true, but they grew up with this system, and it's not that they like it. People bitch about it, but they don't really understand politics. In university, I took an elective course. It was called Political Science 101. And the first thing that a professor talked about was legitimacy of a government. And he spent quite a long time on it. It wasn't a 10-minute thing. It was a big lecture and might have had a follow-up lecture. And it was mentioned from time to time the rest of the semester. What is legitimacy? It's basically the right of the government to govern the people. A legitimate government It basically has the support of the people. An illegitimate government has not the support of the people. And, we're technically like a parliamentary democracy. So, I mean, we come from the idea that, the people vote. But, if you took political science 101 in North Korea under a dictatorship, what would they say about legitimacy? It's an illegitimate government because it governs by force. It's, grandfather ran it, then the father ran it, and now the grandson. They're all last name or first name Kim. It's nepotism. It's a dictatorship. It's a tyranny, a despotic system. Are they legitimate? Well, they got their hands on nuclear triggers. They're treated as legitimate by, other governments. But are they really legitimate? And, I have to go back to Canada. Is Canada a legitimate government? I really question it. We voted for legal weed and we got it 5 years later. That's foot dragging. That's a long time between the time that we say, we want it and the time we get it. Venezuela. Well, I haven't been to Venezuela, but it's always the whipping boy. Socialism doesn't work. I don't know. I mean, I'm not about to go to Venezuela to really check it out, but that's what everyone really needs to do is go to Venezuela and really check it out, what's really going on there. We know that it has among the largest oil reserves on the planet. I don't know how educated the workforce is. I don't know too much about Venezuela. They say, it started with Hugo Chavez, President Chavez. They said he was a socialist because he wanted the poor people. Apparently, they had a great disparity between rich and poor. He wanted the poor people to live better. But, I guess he was a bit of a dictator. And so they say everything really didn't work out well. They ran out of toilet paper. Things don't work well. But, American media are owned by big American corporations, and they're just, we know, because they go to the Middle East all the time and warmonger. They know they warmonger for oil, and Venezuela's got oil. So are the American media really telling us the truth about Venezuela? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I haven't gone. It's expensive, very long way to go, and I don't have a lot of money to waste.